Hello, and welcome to the Live Reality Game Podcast. My name is Stephen Stewart, and I'm here to talk about Surviving Bloomington, the eighth episode, the Redemption episode. And spoiler, it does not go well for me. But a lot happened in Redemption this season, and there's no better way to talk about Redemption, everything that went down, except with my fellow Redemption players. So joining me is Dr. Jamie, Seth, Melanie, and Alex. How are you all doing?
So good.
Doing really well. So glad to be here with you, Stephen.
Nice to see everybody.
Yeah, it's nice to be here on the podcast and with all of my fellow lovely castmates.
It's like a mini reunion.
It is a mini reunion, and Drew may have lost his voice, and so he will be joining in through the comments. And I see there might be some other members of the cast cheering us on from the comment section as well. So hey, Matt. And Danny as well. It is a mini reunion. We are having the first reunion for our season.
Well, and it's fun because also the people who were not at Redemption who played with us, like they don't know our secrets, what was going on there for time. So this is their chance. They're like, please give us the tea.
And so a lot went down at Redemption, and I think the person who needs to kick us off and talk about Redemption is the third person to join Redemption. Nina can't join us, and Riley may pop in. Alex, how are you doing? And lead us off with what Redemption was like.
I'm doing well. Redemption was really the epitome of relaxation for me. I took a couple of naps in between the challenges, and it was just very nice being like one with nature, very zen, until we saw Devontae, and then we knew that it was getting ready things were starting ready to happen. So it was a lot of fun.
So when you had arrived at Redemption, Riley and Nina were there. To my understanding, Riley got a fire started immediately.
Yes. So part of one of the rewards that you could earn was being the first to start fire. My understanding initially was that anybody that started fire could get a key as a reward, but then since Riley was the first one, she was the only one that got the key. So kudos to Riley. She did a great job. She was the one that started fire for the Order tribe first. So that was on course for her. And then Riley and Nina attempted to make rice. And that could have gone a lot better. But that was a lot of fun to be a part of also. And I don't know, just kind of chit-chatting and sharing our collective frustration on not finding any additional keys. It was all very frustrating, but also very relaxing too.
I can't remember exactly. Did we know there were keys out there, or were there just like vague hints that
Devontae said when we got there, he looked at the force. He's like, there may be something out here.
Yeah. And he also hinted at that there might be a plethora of keys. So
Ron Howard voice. There were not.
Yeah.
It set the stage for people because people didn't see where we were at Redemption. Like what was Redemption? Where were we physically? What did it look like?
Great point. Middle of the woods. Like I felt like I was. Have you seen that horror movie, Last Left Turn or something like that, where you just keep on winding back through and through and through, and then you're just plopped in the middle of the woods. And I'm from Martinsville, so I know like woodland territory. And I was like, this is my end. Somebody's going to come out of the woods and it's going to be my last day here on Earth.
Because what's interesting about our season is like the Order tribe and the Chaos tribe, they're in the woods, but you're like on the edge. And the trees weren't that massive, but like where we were for Redemption, you were like a good 100, 200 meters down a path with massive trees. It was much more in the woods than the actual game felt.
With embankments on both sides too.
And it felt like you were driving for a good 5 minutes off of the road. And then I feel like it started off as a gravel road, like a gravel driveway kind of, and then turned into just a dirt path, really. So I had no idea where I was.
And so when you arrived at Redemption, did anything else happen that evening or night, or you arrived and that was kind of it?
That was kind of it. I did give it my fair go of looking for keys because in my mind, Nina and Riley had already found them. And I was like, they're just going to be in plain sight, easy to find, and there's no more keys for Alex. So I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna call it a night. And obviously, you can't really stay up past when everybody else goes to bed because that's big red flag. So I was trying to play it cool. And then in the morning is when we kind of collectively said, okay, we're all gonna just be honest and go looking for keys. And we're gonna tell each other if we find them. And honesty is the best policy while we're here. So that did not go as planned, but it's fine. Just part of the game.
What was the speculation like going? Like, was there a lot of speculation of what was happening back at Order Chaos? Was there a swap?
I did a little creeping before I vacated the main game and saw that there was a merge at that point, or a tribe swap. So I told Nina and Riley everything that I saw and who was with who and what I thought was happening next. And then, the following day we were just bouncing ideas off of each other, going nuts, trying to assume what was happening and who's going to be the next voted off and what time we were going to have our next challenge, just everything, because we didn't have anything to really think about aside from what you guys were doing.
And so I know you all did a puzzle challenge. That was once the next set of Redemption players arrived, right?
Yeah, so Nina, Riley, and I did a challenge. I would say that was probably like around 10-ish, 10 or 11. Devontae was also probably like an hour and a half off with his time at any given point. So we were just high anxiety until we saw Devontae again. But yeah, so we did a challenge, and then that prize was 1 key. And then there was another, I think that there was another set of challenges. But I think we did 3 challenges total, maybe 3 or 4.
What was that first challenge?
The first challenge was he had the 3 of us lined up, and it was kind of like a race. So you had to go into a kiddie pool, probably, I don't know, 50 feet away or something. I wasn't working out at that point, and I was winded by the time it was all said and done. But you had to get these, I think that they were just like little balls that you put in like a ball pit, and that had different letters on them. And you had to find each letter and then spell the word out. And so I won that one. So I was through the roof. I was like, I'm going to come back. This is going to be my game. And then I got humbled really quick with the second puzzle.
And so you are at that point, you have 2 keys, right?
Yes.
And so I think at this point, the first round of tribal councils happened. I'm sure that you predict a lot, but you could not predict everyone going to tribal council. And the next group of contestants joining you would be Marshawn, Melanie, and Jamie.
Yeah, it was shocked to see 3.
Melanie, would you like to go?
Yeah, so I remember like Marshawn was out first, and then I was waiting with Marshawn, and then we were waiting for whoever was going to be joining us. And then we all went over in the car together. And I think they separately gave us keys. It later became like we got keys for like based on how long we had stayed in the game or whatever. So they secretly gave them to us. And then at a certain point on Redemption, we figured out that like some people got more than others. So it was like, oh, okay. But basically what I remember, as soon as I got to Redemption, I was like excited to, be talking with the other players, and also to share like what information I had about what was going on in the game, and especially like who knew each other. Like like that kind of stuff. I was like, if only one of us is going back in, we should just like all share all the information that we have, so that like whoever comes back in has the best shot. So that's kind of my And then also I was like, all right, I guess we're camping. And part of it was like, I wonder how long we're staying here. And we ultimately stayed quite a bit of time.
Billy, did you have your own tent that night, or were you crashing with Marshawn?
I stayed with Marshawn
Okay.
in Marshawn's tent.
Gotcha. I felt like Marshawn, one of the things I love surprised Marshawn, he was probably the most equipped survivalist out there. Like, he knew what he was doing, and it was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, and also Marshawn was like doing his own thing also, which I appreciated. Like, I think he would like go off and be like, okay, I'm gonna take a break. I'll see you around, or like, okay, I'm gonna like go lie in the tent. I respect that. And he was a joy. He was very fun.
Jamie, talk a bit about like your arrival at Redemption. What was that like for you?
I just remember being just like a whirlwind of emotions, because like on the one hand, I can't say I was particularly shocked to have been voted out. Like, I was hoping that would not happen. I can't say I was particularly shocked, but it was still just this like, rush of just like sadness and some frustration, but also just excitement to see and be around people. I remember being surprised, especially that Melanie was out the same round as me. Just for whatever reason, I did not expect that whatsoever. So when I turned the corner after I was the third person voted out, and I saw her, I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But also, I hate to say this, but in a little way, like relieving, because even though we hadn't connected much during the games, we were on different tribes. I'm like, okay, Melanie's going to be someone who's going to help make being in the middle of the woods like a more, I think, calming experience for me. And that did become the case, I think, pretty immediately.
So the three of you then have a puzzle challenge, and this is kind of, to my understanding, it's a kind of a multi-stage puzzle challenge. Can you all describe that to me, what that was like?
Yeah, I don't remember all of the rounds, but it was kind of like, okay, like everyone doing this puzzle, and then the next several who the first people who finish this one get to go on to the next round, and there was something about like people who had certain advantages. Do you guys remember? It was like we could like opt in, or like maybe there was some sort of advantage.
It was based on the money that you raised for the season. So if you had raised a certain amount of money, then you could get like an advantage in a round of the challenge, essentially.
Yeah.
The puzzle that sticks out for me was the slide puzzle. And I did use an advantage in it. And so the advantage for the slide puzzle was being able to see the image of what you were making in the slide puzzle. And I know how to do a slide puzzle. So I was like, okay, here we go. And like, I joked in the group chat, 'cause I'm like, okay, well, I'm not that sad that we lost this footage, because like it took me forever. I mean, it took a lot of us forever. Like,
I didn't even finish it.
Yeah, I was so frustrated, because I was like, I literally know how to do a slide puzzle, like I can do it, but I had like the border, and it was like the picture of it of what we were trying to do was confusing to me, and like I had the border wrong, so then it wouldn't work, and I kept trying to be like, fine, I'm gonna like mix it all up and then do it again. I'm gonna mix it all up and do it again. And I would like look at the filmers and just be like just like put me out of my misery. This is like humiliating. Like, this is terrible. And then like over time, we were doing so poorly that like they were like giving us hints at specific times. It was like, okay, after this much time, we'll give this hint and that hint. But the hints were like about how to do a slide puzzle. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's not what I need help with. Clearly, I'm missing something else. And eventually I remember that I did get it, and I was just like, oh man, but like, I don't remember the details of who else got it. And I think there was a puzzle before that one too.
The slider was the first one.
And then it was down to, I think it was me and Riley.
Mm-hmm.
And then they set a time limit. They were like, if you don't finish this in 5 minutes, then I can't remember what the next step would have been. And then Riley got it with like a minute left. And so I was just sitting there looking like the biggest dum-dum on the planet, because I had one piece out of place and I couldn't figure out how to get it there.
Well, it was a brutally hard slide puzzle. Like a couple,
it was
like,
a nightmare.
The itself was challenging, but then part of what made it like really challenging for me was like any slider that I had practiced was like a square-based one, but this one was different size on the side versus the top. So that made it harder. And then also usually like I'm used to the empty square being in one of the corners, but that was not the case with this one. It was like it was in the middle. So it made it very hard to solve because of those.
Wow. I think this is the puzzle they did as the final 6 challenge the previous season, and it also looked hard when they did that.
Yeah, it was a reused puzzle. It was like familiar to me. I feel like I was like, okay. And then like they reminded us about how at the bottom, like the 2 empty spaces. But yeah, it would have been extra difficult for me without being able to see what the puzzle looked like as well. But you had to like go and look on like production's phone or whatever, and then go back to it. It wasn't like you had it right in front of you. It was like you can go take a break and go look at it and then go back to your station.
Yeah. Hearing about this, because slide puzzles is one of the things that I practiced the most preparing for Surviving Bloomington. Like I had an app on my phone, like waiting for the bus, I'd be playing slide puzzles. I was like, I know this isn't last season. It's probably going to be in this season. Like I want to be prepared. So I was a little frustrated when I heard that like I didn't get an opportunity to use that, but I'm also a little bit glad now that I didn't have to be humbled by what sounds like an extraordinarily difficult slide puzzle. So I kind of avoided that potential disaster.
Who ended up winning this challenge?
So it came down to Nina and I in the final round, and it ended up being like literally the least puzzle that I would ever want to see. So Nina ended up winning it.
What puzzle was it?
It's like the tree from Survivor. We have to put all the pieces in, and it's funny because like I remember even on day 1 of Order saying like I am good with most types of puzzles, but if it is that tree puzzle, do not put me in it. So of course that would be the final puzzle to come up, because as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, this is not good.
It was a wooden tree puzzle that was a little different than like the ones you can buy on Etsy or whatever. So it was a unique tree puzzle. And there must have been another puzzle in between, because I know that
it was the square that you had to use like the 5 pieces to make a
the
square.
tangram.
Yeah.
Tangram. Yeah. I was out on that. Oh yeah, that's right. I was also thought that I got that and it was like a little bit off, and I was also frustrated with that because I have also practiced that.
Because Melanie, we play with that tree puzzle in, I guess, Ponderosa postseason, and I sucked. But like, it's if you've never done like a 3D puzzle like that before, it's just so different. And I was not expecting there would be a piece in the middle between the branches. That threw me off for such a long time too. I felt so silly afterwards.
I will say it was really nice that we were able to do challenges while on Redemption. That was a nice touch. Like they didn't have to do such things. So I appreciated, getting a chance to do some things like that.
And also we got to do that puzzle challenge while they were doing tug of war.
You missed out on so much fun.
I mean, I would have been happy to do tug of war as well. Like, give me all the challenges. What else are we doing?
Yeah.
And so this leads to Seth and I joining y'all on Redemption. Seth, talk me through our trip from the game to Redemption.
Yeah, I mean, so I feel like coming into Redemption, I mean, gosh, speaking of that tug of war, I was just I was feeling the feelings there because of the way that challenge shook out when it ended up turning into a 2 teams versus 1 tug of war. And I was just really frustrated. Just didn't feel like that was, I think I said it on the episode, like technically a fair strategy. So I can't be too mad, but so I was feeling a little bit down on that, but it was nice to come. I was surprised, Stephen, to see you voted out.
I was surprised too, don't worry.
And but it was nice that we got to do on that drive, and it was nice to be able to I felt like, I mean, the game was still on and we were all vying for that spot back in the game, but it was also a slow down, and I actually got to be with all of the friends here and the rest who were on Redemption and just sort of actually get some less competitive time in, which was a treat.
Yeah, my mind was wheeling after I got voted off, because part of me was just like trying to like, how did the vote off even happen? For me, like at the time, I had no idea that Matt was blindsided too. I just had no clue. And so much kind of like Melanie, I went through Redemption, just kind of like said, here's everything I know. John has an idol, which was not the case. I just threw all the cards on the table. It's just like, yeah, if I can blow up games, I'm going to blow up games at this point because I'm out. And so we pretty immediately go into a gross food challenge. And this echoes the gross food challenge that we see in the episode the players actually do, and we eat many of the same things. I don't remember how we selected who went first, but Melanie, you and I were the first two up, and right?
I mean, I don't remember all the details of it, but I do
You ate
remember
the gummies with me.
and which are not, that's not gross at all. I'm like, my stance is that like none of the food was gross because it was all vegan. And I was like, oh, all the vegan food is like,
only the cupcakes we had later.
I think it was a snake thing where whoever won got to pick who was going next. Was that what we did? Yeah. And I think we just sort of had everybody get involved with that.
Alex, what rounds did you compete in for the food challenge?
I think it was some sort of almond. And I think it was the round before. It was in my mind, it was a very quick swallow item, if that makes sense. And so I think that it was Seth that I was yelling at to just swallow it. And then the next round I got the almonds and I was like, okay, in my head, I'm like, you can do this. You can just swallow all these almonds and it'll be fine. I could not. And so again, I felt like a big idiot because I was like, oh, I was just yelling at Seth to swallow these. And he did immediately swallowed all of the almonds. And I was like, man, what a champ.
So Seth, you have...
I feel like that's so dangerous. I was worried about you swallowing almonds.
Yeah, because I was in the spicy almond portion, and yeah, I mean, because I can take like ibuprofen with no water and stuff. So I mean, I just treated it like I was taking a handful of pills. Like I just threw them back and gulp, which could have ended poorly, but fortunately got me that round.
What did you do in your second round?
I think I'm trying to remember. There may have been a round between because the next round I remember was the pineapple and jalapeno. Do any of y'all remember, was there a round in between that I participated in?
Wasn't there kimchi? Wasn't that one of them?
I think it wasn't kimchi. There was sauerkraut. So I ate sauerkraut and they were like, oh, who likes sour? I'm like, I literally make sauerkraut. I'm like, it's fine. Like, bring it on. So I think whoever was eating against me then was kind of like, oh gosh. But the jalapenos and pineapples and olives was the final round. And we couldn't use our hands for that one. Right. So then that must have, me and you, Seth, must have been for that one.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a really big pickle too?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who was that because like it wasn't Nina who's like I can.
Wasn't it Marshawn?
No, Marshawn ended up eating it because he wanted it.
Riley, maybe.
Yeah, somebody was not having the pickles.
I thought it was Nina. Nina was like, I can do anything but a pickle, and it's just giant pickle, and she's like, nope, I'm out. And Marshawn like. Does anyone describe the scene of Marshawn eating this pickle? The one piece of footage I desperately want from this season.
It was very sensual.
And he was just like eating up this. I'm like, all right, well, everyone's gonna watch me eat this.
Yeah. Like he got on the table and was just like striking a pose, like paint me one of your French girls, and then just downing the pickle. I'm like, what is happening right now?
And Jamie, what rounds did you compete in for this challenge?
I only had one round. I did the vegan beef jerky against Riley, which I love vegan beef jerky. It's something I eat all the time. But like the issue with that is it's something that you cannot really eat super quickly because it is so dry and like you really need to chew it. So we were very close. Riley ended up like just getting it down like a split second before me. But like I had no issue eating that. It's like I have a big fear of choking, so like the idea of like trying to swallow that when I have such a dry mouth was really challenging.
Yeah, it's definitely more about just like a speed eating competition more than like, okay, do you like the thing that you're eating? I will just take a moment to like thank for production for enabling this food challenge to be vegan friendly. Because I have participated in other allergies where that was not the case. And so it was really very special for me to be able to participate and to win on this challenge.
So Melanie, as the winner, what did you get?
I believe I got 2 keys, or at least I got like some key that I got to keep and then a key to put back into the game. So at that point I gave Kim a key and she was still in the game. Which was nice. And across the game, I was sort of rooting for the local people and the newbies, but like, which ended up being, a lot of the same. And so like, I had been upset seeing that like the first several people that were on redemption were all local people. And that was part of my like trying to connect with Matt as well, was just like, you see that all these local people are the ones that are being like sent out. So yeah, I was trying to give Kim a little, a little bonus.
And after the grocery challenge, that's kind of it for events for redemption that night. I mean, I think all of us were kind of predicting like, all right, there's at this point, what, 7 of us, like 8 of us here. We're like, surely redemption must be ending. Surely the merge must be coming. But it doesn't happen that night. We just relaxed. I think when we arrived, there was some rice that had been made by everyone, and so I had a little bit of rice, and then I put up a tent for the first time in my life with Seth and Jamie. That was an experience.
Yeah, we packed in. It was very much sardine style.
Like I wasn't predicting redemption to last the whole second night as well. So when we realized that was happening, it's like, oh, okay. But I'll say like spending the time out there, like spending the overnight, in a weird way, ended up being like a major highlight because we had that time all together just to hang out, and like a lot of us stayed up like late that night. It felt just like talking about things and more about life, less about the game, but just it was a good way to process different things and to just like really connect with people, I felt. So I'm actually really thankful for that.
I definitely agree. Also, like you knowing that only one person is coming back, or that you assume, so you there's less reason to like hide parts of yourself or like your experiences or even your connections with people. So I feel like we were able to be still more open. And like at a certain point, like Nina had been holding back on part of what she was dealing with, like while she was on redemption, and then was able to like be like, actually, like I'm dealing with this whole other thing you guys don't even see. And we're like, oh, like, so it was definitely a highlight for me. Also, just getting to know the people who were not originally on my tribe.
I think there was a catharsis to the experience that I never expected. I mean, because like I feel like Survivor fans always have strong feelings about redemption. That like, oh, like redemption players should never win the game. They've been voted out, like they're out, they're gone. But like going through a redemption experience and and it was such a great way to kind of come down off that the rush and the order and the chaos of the game, and to really kind of process what happened, but do it in a really good environment. Because like I've done other games where I've been voted off and like pre-jury and everyone's gone. This was such a better experience to kind of round out the game for me, I felt.
I'm definitely a big advocate for, if you are voted out early of a game, to stay and hang around, because otherwise you sort of like hold on to like what happened or what you think happened, which you might not even be correct of what happened. And so I feel like redemption sort of almost forces you to be like, oh no, like you're still, I mean, it's not forced because you can always just leave, but like you're purposefully connected to people in a longer way. And I think that does, like, that's what we want out of these games anyway.
And it's a good time to debrief too. Talk about something that you all shared together and maybe talk shit about one another. I don't know if we can talk on this.
Well, Alex, I felt so awkward about walking redemption. Like, oh look, 4 people I all voted out. Hi.
It's all a game. It's okay. We understand.
I want to point out
there's a lot to just like the human aspect of it, because like, we said this before we started the podcast tonight, but we're excited to see each other again because it feels like a reunion. But part of that is like, it's really cool and awesome to spend time with people who have similar like niche interests to you. And like, it's an experience that like you'll never get again in the exact same way. Even if we play other games, there'll be some difference there. So it's just like really cool to like have the opportunity to just decompress and actually spend time with people that's less competitive.
One other highlight, I'm gonna single you out, Seth. Your ghost story that night was a definite like peak of the experience for me, and I just want to say thank you again for that.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, because I had at the the previous night when Jamie and I were both still in the game, had told a ghost story to the team there. And it was nice though to get to repeat it for you, and I'm glad you enjoyed it so much. It was funny. I don't even think I maybe even didn't consciously realize it, but I was kind of trying to pull like a 1001 Arabian Nights. Like if I tell a ghost story every night, well, I'm gonna say, but I got another really good one. You'll have to wait till tomorrow to hear. But that strategy obviously did not work. But so it was nice to get to come in just in a less trying to gamify life way to just share the stories that I grew up hearing from my folks. So that was nice. Thanks.
Alex, we have a comment from Matt. Is there any tea that you would like to spill in a nice fashion on this podcast?
Funny you should say that, Matt. No, I'm joking. Not you, because I thought that we were still, vibing, but apparently not, and that's okay. But no, I obviously can't share the secrets of Redemption Island. What happens on Redemption Island stays on Redemption Island.
Have to get voted out. The first to join us.
Right.
Is there anything else that happened the end of second night that anyone wants to bring up?
I would just say it was really interesting eating a couple of bites of rice off of like a small square of cardboard with my hands.
I was amused that in Bloomington we were given rice, but like not plates or utensils or anything to like and it's not like we have palm fronds around or anything. So it was really just like, okay, like what are we doing? How are we doing? So that's how we ate out of like a trash bag or like a hat. It's like that was in the game proper. We did that, but yeah, at the same time, I think we did that at Redemption. And like also, I do remember that. So part of the gross food challenge that we didn't do because they made it all vegan was the cupcakes that were like ranch and whatever. Those were not vegan, so we didn't have those as part of the Redemption challenge. But like I think that at some point they got brought over, and some of you guys tried it anyway for fun. And then we maybe used that box as like so that was like how we ate the rice, was using the top of the box for the donuts.
I feel like I ate off a machete at one point. I think someone was using that as the serving utensil. I ate a bite of rice off of that, but I cannot reiterate, those cupcakes were nasty.
So I remember just being so excited when Hannah said she was bringing us cupcakes, because she did not mention beforehand that these were going to be gross, disgusting cupcakes. I should have figured, because but I didn't. I was like, okay, I'm actually going to get something to eat. This is going to be good. I'm very hungry. And then that was not good at all. Those were atrocious.
So morning day 3 is what I like to call the scramble for keys, because I feel like it's daylight and there can be keys out there, and we all just search far and wide along this very long continuous trail. And we're like, where on earth can these keys be? Anyone want to talk about this?
I'll say that. Oh, sorry, Melanie. I'll say that Riley at that point disclosed to me that she had already found one, and then showed me where in like a tree crevice it was. So again, I'm thinking obvious find. Like it's going to be in a pouch or in a nice, pretty bowed box, and just like staring you in the face, like, here I am. So I was like, okay, now that I know whereabouts she found hers, then that'll be easy to find the others. No, I didn't find a single thing.
Does anyone want to share how Nina found her key?
Yeah, I can. So we were sitting like on a fallen tree, and actually I'm realizing now as I'm starting to tell the story that I may have some gaps in it, so somebody jump in and fill it in. But I think we were like talking about maybe moving it closer to the fire or something, and I was like sitting there and I was like, oh, Nina, here, why don't you come sit down? And I like scooted over, made some space, and then Nina sat and I was like, what is this? And it sat on a key that was sitting right next to me that I had just not even seen. So Nina found that one.
Those keys are so small and hard to see. I mean, when we look in the episode and there's that little key hidden in the voting booth, I'm just like, I was impressed John found it this week, because I'm like, boy, I think no one's gonna find the entire season.
And they're bronze. So sticking out of the tree, invisible.
And I think that the key, Nina like sat on it. It wasn't like sitting like flat on the thing. It was like sticking into it. So it was like, oh, I just like sat on something that's poking me. That
So she jumps up.
Yeah, it was like dramatic. So she wasn't like hiding that she found it, because it was just like, what
There
is
was no hiding that.
But I'm pretty sure Riley did hide from most of us that she had found that other key, because that I don't think I knew that until like, you know, at the challenge when people are keying in, etc.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until 1 minute ago when Alex said.
She was good. She was so good at keeping secrets.
For a long time, I felt like
the part that I enjoyed about so after Nina found that key and it was public knowledge, then it was like that really like lit a fire under us to be like, okay, so there really are some keys here, because there was some doubts, but we're like, okay, let's take a look. But also there was not clear parameters, and it was like the woods. But what I enjoyed, and like a sort of a highlight for me, was like, I remember specifically like looking around with Seth. Like it gives you a chance to like pair off with people and talk. And so like I feel like Seth and I like connected over like he does some like political anti-prison work and like prisoner support work and stuff, which I've also done in my past. And like so it was like, okay, like we can still have our social connections. And also that was when I don't remember exactly when we knew like what the deal was with the keys, but maybe they told us initially that we were having this option of you can either use the keys for an advantage in the challenge or to try to be on the jury. And I feel like Seth was sort of like openly considering that avenue of the bribing the jury. And so there was still a little bit of like strategy talk that like you know, wasn't in an episode necessarily, but I think is important for people to know that like we were also still like thinking through game decisions like together and independently. And also I was sort of like filing away the information that Seth was saying, so that if he was going to bribe people and I was going to bribe people, that we wouldn't bribe the same people.
I think that was one of my highlights with you, Melanie, was all the strategizing with you. And I was like, oh man, buyer's remorse. Why did I vote Melanie out? This is so much fun.
Yeah, we definitely all put our game theory hats on, and we're trying to run permutations. Well, if somebody does this, then I'll do that. But then yeah, absolutely.
So I have a question from Drew, and Jamie, you cannot answer this question because of all of us. We actually will get to see what you do in this case. But what, to Seth, Alex, and Melanie, were you planning to work with? Who were you planning to work with? How'd you come back into the game? Alex.
I gotta be honest, man. After I bombed the puzzle challenge, my hopes were not high that I was gonna make it back. I was just kind of in it for the fun of it at that point, just to see if I could. And I kind of had, I don't know, just looking at the next step, not really too far into the future. I had no plans, to be honest.
Melanie?
I think I would have just gone back to the people that I had worked with. I mean, that I'd known at all from in the game. So I would have been trying to work with like Drew and Brady. I knew that Tyler and Danny knew each other from that they had played a game together. So I would have wanted to try working with Danny, but also I would have had to keep my eye on the fact that both of them were still in the game. And I didn't tell anybody that I knew that. I probably did. I'm sure I did on Redemption, but like in the game, I hadn't disclosed any of that information. So yeah, I would have, and then I would have tried to work with Rachel still, like circle back, like definitely. And like Matt, I would have tried my strategy, as I said in the episodes, is like try to work with all of the people that you can. So like remain open. And I also don't like hold grudges of like I wouldn't have been mad that like Matt and Rachel like were not, working with me.
Yeah. And for me, I think, it's interesting. It's because, right, the people that voted me out were Drew and Brady and Tyler. But I actually think that if I were to get back in the game, those are the folks that I would try to reconnect with and reintegrate into that alliance. I mean, because in so many ways, and obviously, there's always, and Jamie, kudos to you. I think nobody has turned a 0% chance into a non-0% chance. And you managed to get as close as you could to convincing one of us to turn on each other. I mean, we were all like, maybe we do, maybe this is the moment. but for me, it felt like my vote out was a very like sort of impossible situation where I didn't hold any hard feelings. I didn't feel backstabbed necessarily. And so I would definitely try that. The other person is Daddy Matt. I don't know if his team clocked this, but was very, very genial with the with people at challenges. So it always sort of like give us a smile, give us a sup nod. I mean, even in taking like the cast photo, he just came and he sort of put his arm around me, I think. And so just like that, those little tells of like, oh, this might be a person who wants to reach across tribal lines. So that's a person that I probably would have wanted to try to connect with, who had not gotten any chances to play with on a team.
As for me, I think I don't know if I would have been as good as Melanie is with saying, I'm open to work with anyone from the people who voted me out. At this point, I'm still thinking that John and Matt both voted me out, and I think I would have been like, all right, out with the order, in with the chaos. Let's go find some new alliance members, because that clearly is not working for me. And so Drew probably would have been a person I would have talked to, just because we had podcasts with each other once. So I can see myself falling in with maybe Drew, Tyler, and Brady, and trying to work my way in there as a potential new home as an alliance. I think I would probably been open to working with Rachel. I wrote her name down, she wrote my name down, she won out, so there's no ill feeling there. And so I think I would have been looking for a ship to jump onto had I returned.
Join us. Chaos reigns.
And so who knows, maybe, and I think Drew at the time would have been receptive to me coming over to him. So who knows what would have happened. I have thoughts about, as the season continues, I can talk about my thoughts on the podcast of how I would have done. But the answer is I didn't make it back in. So that morning after the mad scramble, I think all of us, I was surprised to see Kim joining us. I think all of us were kind of like merge, not like, oh shoot, another vote out, and then we're immediately go to the merge challenge.
Yeah, I was bummed to see Kim joining us. I really wanted her to be able to move forward, and I really respected her gameplay, but also how she was willing to put herself out there right from the get-go, in terms of like, I think because that's not necessarily how I'm more like, let me let other people, like, let me hide in the background. And she was like, okay, I'm going to like take this role and that role. So I just thought that was really awesome. So I was rooting for her.
Yeah, it was really surprising to see Kim come back in. But hearing a little bit, I think she sort of kept it close to the chest about what had happened, sort of let a little things out, and then seeing the episode back and really seeing everything that happened. And I think Kim, we talk about CBS Survivor so much being like a, like a little mini society, like a snapshot of society. And I feel like LRG sometimes are like, oh, but it's just a game. But LRGs all are also like a piece of society. And I just want to, Kim. So Kim, I feel like really lived that. And like building that society that Kim wanted. So it was a shock to see Kim come back. And also because Kim was a person that I was hoping if I had gotten back in, I could work with, because we were close.
I think one of my biggest regrets is, Kim arrives to Redemption, as we're packing up and getting ready to go to whatever we were going to see. And I asked him, like, what happened? I'm just like in the game mode at this point. It's like, it's about the Redemption Challenge. We need to have all the information. I just like, Kim, what happened? And Kim was just like, I don't want to talk about it. And I was just like, the person's like, oh, something different happened here, and I need to back off. What she's experiencing going through is in a very different place than like my head is like game, and that wasn't the right place for me to be in.
Yeah, she was emotional as she arrived, and like we all wanted the information, because we knew we were like going in, and also that had been the vibe of Redemption, is like, let's share all the information and everything. But she just needed that processing time, which is reasonable as well.
So we get to the Redemption Challenge. The Redemption Challenge is we have to hold a water bottle on a platter above our head as long as possible. Now, for all of us who donated money. We were given retries based off how much we were able to receive donations. And then for any additional retries, you could play a key. And any keys you didn't spend that challenge, you could then use to bribe people to vote you onto the jury afterwards. So I guess starting with Alex, we'll go Alex, Melanie, Seth, Jamie, talk through your decision factor of like, how that challenge was for you. And, do I use my keys or do I try to bribe my way to the jury?
For me, I only had, I think, 2 or 3 keys. So I figured I didn't have enough to bribe anybody with. And before that challenge, we had spent some time with Kim, and there had been a discrepancy with her key situation. So I was fired up because Kim had some exorbitant amount of keys. And I'm like, oh, just let me go home. There's no way I'm going to be able to come back from that. But come to find out, it was just an error. But I didn't know that it was an error until much later. So apologies, Kim, for coming at you a little aggressively if I did do that, which I believe I did. And so like I said, I only had 2 or 3 keys, and I knew that wouldn't be enough to get me back into the game with the people that were currently in there. And being the third one voted off, I hadn't had time to establish relationships with many people that were still in the game. So anytime I dropped the water bottle, which was every time, I was just like, key. And I was just throwing keys left and right until I didn't have any more. So yeah, that was my thought process behind it all.
Melanie?
So going into it, I really was thinking I would use the keys to give me an advantage in the challenge, but it would depend on how useful I thought that advantage was. And once we saw that, like, you're basically gassing out your one arm, and then like if you get another chance, your arm is already tired out for the next one and the next one. So it was like, okay, like I didn't think that, maybe and I don't remember if we even were allowed to like do both arms. Like, could you switch arms? Yeah. No. Okay. So like, yeah, it was basically once your arm was tired, I didn't think that like an extra key was gonna give me much more time. It was like, so that's why I sort of switched to like, okay, I guess I had 4 keys. I used them all to bribe people because I didn't think that I was going to win the challenge, essentially. I mean, although I looked at it, the challenge, and I was like, okay, I'm a pole dancer. Like we use arm strength. Like I was like, I'm decent at this. But at the same time, I also was like looking at Nina next to me and saw how like hardcore and dedicated she was. And I was just like, you know what? Like, let me just, go with this. And like, without putting like all her business out there, like she had like shared about like some of the physical stuff that she was going through. And like, it was like really one of the moments that I will remember out of like allergies in general is just seeing how, when they talk about like digging deep and like how hard she was like all of that heart, like it was incredible to watch. And I think it was like, not to take away from like Dr. Jamie and Seth also, but I was like next to Nina. So I was like, had like front row seats to like how she was giving it everything. And also as the first one out in her first LRG, I was just like, damn girl. So anyway, I had switched based on like what I saw, but yeah, it was a good challenge.
Seth, I think you make one of the most important decisions in that challenge. Can you talk me through your thought process approaching the challenge and how you were able to go so long and what happened at the end there?
Yeah, so I had a fair number of keys coming in because I had managed to raise a good amount. I think I had the maximum number of donation for the advantages. Obviously, it was not a donation contestant. Kudos to Kim and Mackenzie for that. But it's interesting, Melanie, that your take was that you thought the keys would not really provide much of an advantage in challenge. I definitely sort of clocked it as a chance to sort of like let your arm rest even for a moment. And so I really leaned into the keys being, I think you've even seen the episode, me sort of spinning my arm out, just really like giving those muscles just a moment. Obviously, it's not going to be exactly duplicative. You're going to have diminishing returns. But yeah, I just really focused in. And I mean, for me, I feel like in a lot of ways, it was a mental challenge more. I mean, just like I really just tried to stay focused, because the arm strength actually was not even as much what I dropped most on. It was, I would be so just like feeling that, and then I would lose my focus. So for me, it was a really more of a focus challenge for me personally. But then kudos to Dr. Jamie for pulling it out.
Jamie, talk us through, how do you win an endurance challenge?
Yeah, I'll say just like even going into the challenge, like Stephen, you and I actually rode back to the game together, or back to the challenge together. And I just remember just like being like pretty somber at the time. Like I was not particularly amped up for it. I was pretty somber, just like really sad. Is like, oh my gosh, this is going to be over soon, right? Something that really helped was, I want to shout out Mia on production, who I had not known beforehand, but like literally like helped get my head in the game, was just so supportive, so kind, and is like, no, you need to have your head in the game, you need to like think about this, and it really like, I think, amped me up going into it. I knew that whatever keys that I did have, like I was always going to put them toward the challenge, because that was more important to me at that point. But I think what was really helpful just going into it is like, I typically, you see this in the episodes, I'm kind of an open book about it, but I doubt myself like so much of the time, constantly, always, pretty much everything that I do. But I think something that really helped was, for whatever reason, something just clicked in me. Like, I don't think the challenge was inherently something that was up my alley per se, but as soon as Casey described what it was, I remember saying to myself, okay, you are going to win this. There is no way, shape, or form about it. You are just going to do it. So I really think it was that mentality, which is not something that I usually get for myself, that just allowed me to key in and focus. Key in, there you go. So yeah, I just, whatever it was, I was just going to focus. Just if this is all that I have to do for the next, 20, 25 minutes, that's what I was going to do.
I just want to say, like, you did a great job. It was like also inspiring and exciting for you. Like, it was clear how much you fought for it and it meant to you, and that was like very powerful. And like, I loved to see it.
I there's only one thing I could wish from the episode. I wish we had some sort of time counter to understand how long you, Seth, and Nina fought for, because that was just super impressive to watch.
I think we were talking about in the chat. Jamie, were we talking that it was upwards of 25 minutes?
I was told that it was 25 minutes by production at the time.
And so, without giving much details, Jamie, you end up winning the challenge, which means you've won your way back in the game. Talk to us just what that feeling was for you.
It was simultaneously like a rush of just excitement, joy, just I was over the moon in one sense, because like on the one hand, like I talk about this, but I just want to have like a full experience. More than anything, I just want to have a full experience playing Survivor. My first time I played at least a Survivor game before. So I was really happy and really excited. And then at the same time, like I truly was very almost guilty in a way. Like I did feel like right when I won, is like, oh my gosh, now this means that all these other people can't have this. So I did feel that, but I did try to like lean against that as much as I can. Actually had a good conversation with Sparky right afterward, which was very helpful for me. I'll say that much. But I was feeling very just grateful and happy for the experience, and especially for Seth. That was just a very kind thing at the end of the challenge. We had a nice little exchange, which you can't hear in the episode, but you can kind of see a bit of. So it's all that to say, a rush of emotions, many kinds, all of them, all at once.
Well, the last order of business, well, I guess I'll say why I chose not to play my keys is because I absolutely suck at endurance challenges. I go down first and second. And I use my freebie, and I go down like 2 minutes later. I'm just like, this is not worth my effort, because I am not going to do well in this challenge. And so I saved the 2 keys for the bribing process. Melanie, you end up being the only person here who does get to bribe players. Can you talk through your decision of who you bribed and why?
Well, like I said, we had talked on redemption. Like I had talked with Seth a bit about who he would maybe be bribing, and I had sort of like thought through about like, oh, I don't want to bribe the same people, but it was really like thrown for a loop because we had no idea who like Kim or Nina. Like Kim had not been part of any of those conversations, and then like I think Nina had used all of her, like she was not planning to bribe people
Mhm.
either, and hadn't ever had conversations. So I really like any sort of plans that I had about that were not. It was just like I don't know. I guess multiple people tried to bribe Tyler, so I think that didn't go my way. And then I did bribe Matt and Rachel successfully. And I guess there was maybe one other person forgetting, but my strategy was trying to go with someone who I thought would reasonably be like, okay, Melanie wouldn't be bad to have on the jury, and also I wasn't competing with somebody else who was trying to bribe them. So I do think that it was a nice mechanism and idea to like have someone from Redemption get to be on the jury and like bring that, you know, the information and the vibes and the perspective from us, as we had all collectively shared a lot of information, to be on the jury, especially because we weren't allowed to talk, you know, like as is, you know, standard, like pre-jury can't talk to jury about like what our experiences were. So the fact that someone from essentially pre-jury was able to have that communication about what happened before the merge and such was, you know, like that was fun. That's a nice dynamic. It's like everything could be considered.
I will say, I felt really awful and guilty because I'm sitting next to you in the challenge as Nina, Seth, and Jamie are battling out, and you come over and say, like, what are your plans? And I've realized I am giving my keys away. And I feel awful at that moment because I'm like, I can't strategize with you because I am not using my own keys for myself. And so I felt really awful in the moment.
Well,
as
you
I-
don't
as I
need
told
to.
you.
And also, you told me while we were sitting there that
Mm.
you were planning to give them away to
Yeah.
someone. So,
Yeah.
which I was like, that's nice of you people. I'm like, I mean, I'm gonna keep playing my game, but I mean, you don't need to feel any kind. You can do whatever you want, you know.
And so Seth and I both give our remaining keys to Nina for Nina the Bribe. And I think you see in the episode, Nina is very shocked and kind of overwhelmed in the moment of, you know, she played all her keys, she was out, and now she had keys again and had one more shot at something. So, and that's redemption. That's it for at least four of us here. And I guess as we wrap up, I would like to ask you all for two things. You know, what is a highlight moment or memory from your experience in the game, and what's something that that surprised you watching the experience back on the show? And whoever wants to go first can go first. And Jamie, for you, your experience isn't over with, but again, you're welcome to join in for a favorite moments in the pre-merge for you.
I can go ahead and go first. I think one of the highlights was getting to spend time on Redemption Island, because my time on Redemption Island was longer than my time in the game. I really enjoyed getting to know Riley and Nina better and spending some quality time with both of them. And then the surprise of each group of people joining us was definitely, I felt like I was on the show. So that was a lot of fun for me. And then what was the second part of the question?
What's anything surprise or stand out to you watching back these episodes so far?
Oh, I think the episode that I got voted out on, I think I hadn't connected all the pieces of my demise. And so that was really nice to see as kind of a closure for me. I was okay with how everything panned out because if given the opportunity, I would have done it to somebody else. So no hard feelings, Daddy Matt. I know you think that you're part of the ones that I was talking shit about, and you might be right, but we'll never really know. So yeah, that was really nice to see.
My memory, like one of my favorite memories from the game, which was not in the episodes was just sitting with the Chaos tribe. Like we won a bunch in the beginning, and we did some of like the bonding stuff where we talked about like our hopes and dreams and what was important to us. And that's always my favorite part, is just like connecting with people. And I'm glad we got to do some of that at Redemption as well. I just sort of have like some like really like warm memories from that that experience on the Chaos Tribe as well. And the surprise that I had was I didn't know about the lost footage. I didn't know that like we were gonna have this like beautiful like art episode that Casey put together. I mean, in general, I didn't know what to expect. Like Casey's like editing has been so beautiful. The whole like what he's given us as a gift. I've also played a number of LRGs that were filmed and never made into episodes, like multiple times. So it's really like you never know what you're gonna get when you do an LRG. So like he's surpassed like in every way, like the editing and the gift that he's given us. So
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I mean, just to echo first just off what you said, I mean, such a kudos to production, to Casey and to Megan and to Ethan, who was running camera, and everybody else who was working in like in Dallas, who worked with Megan on casting. Like just nothing but props for them. This is my first LRG, but I understand from talking to many of you seasoned veterans of the LRG community that this one is special. So that makes me feel really good that this was my first one to play in, hopefully of many. And yeah, I think for me, my favorite part was, I mean, I didn't get to play post-merge, but I feel like I got a very diverse amount of Surviving Bloomington experiences, right? I got to win some, I got to lose some, I got to play in team challenges, I got to do some scrambling, I got to play in an individual challenge, the Redemption Island challenge, which was nice because up until that point I had only done team ones.
You did the balancing
the
challenge.
balls. That's true. That's true. Good point. I remember that. Yeah, I mean that was nice. So I feel like I got a really diverse set of experiences, and then it was also nice because now we officially know that this is the end of my in-game journey until we get to that second Redemption Island twist.
Seth, what was the first thing you did once you were officially out of the game? You picked up a camera.
That's right. Yeah.
And started helping out.
Seth became proud like immediately after.
Yeah. Well, and so because I had the season before I had been on video crew, and I almost didn't apply because I had so much fun being on crew, but I was like, I want to try this other experience. And so it was a real treat to get to, from the merge forward, just rejoin my production family as well, which was a lot of fun. The thing that surprised me the most is I think, I play a lot of like strategy board games, like role-playing games, things like that. And for me, I think I thought going in, this was going to be very much just like extended version of that, right? Settlers of Catan, but much, much bigger. And I was surprised, I feel like, to find the balance and the tension between that side of the coin, but the other side being this bigger than the game things, like Kim's decision. And I mean, Jamie, when you were talking about when you were pleading for your life in the game at our team, I mean, you were saying things like, it's important to me to make it to the merge. Please, I really hope you all keep me around. And I'm sure some of that was your very adept strategizing, but we also heard it as truth. And so that was really interesting to me and unexpected, that tension between those. And then also having, such a diverse cast in terms of equity and things. So that caught me a little off guard. And I think that it was part of what made this game special, because that was sort of a game on top of a game, which I really enjoyed and has really helped me have a lot of things to think about since.
Jamie?
So I'll say one of my favorite things and things that I'm most thankful for comes from at the cost of a couple of you, unfortunately. But it was I was trying to enjoy my time on Redemption. There's ups and downs to it, but like when Steven and Seth arrived at the same exact time, I'm like, well, this really sucks for them. But at the same time, my mood just very instantly brightened because I just felt very connected to both of you. And I'm just thankful that we had just some time together. Like, I mean, the three of us shared a tiny tent that night and got to hear a ghost story all over again. And it was just like a really cool bonding experience that we just would never have had. So I'm just very thankful for that. And even like the not great weather and all of that, so that was definitely probably a very key highlight for me. I'd say the thing that surprises me the most just watching it back is like, it's something that I know, but also like I doubt a lot of the time, which is it's just nice to see. It's a gentle reminder that I can be weird and different and feel awkward most of the time. And I do think that that's true, but I can also fit in and have like be part of a group and feel very validated and cared about, which I always feel like that's not going to happen and it'll always be different. And yet it's nice seeing that even I can feel those things, but still feel fit in.
I feel like I have 17 new best friends for life in a lot of ways. We have a very, very active group chat for this cast that I foresee being active for the foreseeable future.
And Steve, I agree. And also, Stephen, I want to make sure that you give your take on this as well.
I think there's a lot of good moments. And I think one moment that really stuck out to me was watching the sunset on day 2 with Marshawn alone in the woods. Like, I wandered down that really long, never-ending trail. I don't know who went the farthest, but I wandered down a large part, and it was my first time really meeting or ever talking with Sean, and we just watched the sunset in silence, and that was just like felt like it's just such a human moment between us, and that's why I love these games. Like Marshawn and I are two people who would never encounter each other most likely in our daily lives, and here we are, and that was just such a really poignant moment for me. And then I guess watching it back, I was a mess in the game. I was sick. My shoes were falling apart. I have a bloody nose at one point. There's blood on my shirt. You don't get the full sunset on this show. And I'm like, that's probably a good thing. So I'm grateful that Casey did not portray my slow dissolution of the course of the game. And like another highlight was Seth and his fanny pack of wonders having chapstick. Boy, that was a great moment because I'm just watching the show back like, I lick my lips a lot. I lick my lips a lot. Oh yeah, I was really chapped the entire time. And Seth, you saved my life with that redemption. Any last words before I close this out here? Thank you, Jamie, Seth, Alex, Melanie. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Thank you, Drew, and everyone else from the cast who are in the comments. I really appreciate you coming here to kind of talk through what the redemption experience was like. And there's a chance Casey may have an opportunity to put some of that footage up, but I think it's important for us to share the story and say, what was going on, that it's a sub game, but it's still part of the game. So I really appreciate all of your time and just sharing these stories. Thank you, everyone, again, for tuning in and listening. This is the end of 4 of our journeys, but for Dr. Jamie, their journey is still going. So if you tune in Saturday, tomorrow, to catch the next episode, we'll see what happens in this merge. So thank you all for your time. Thank you all for listening, and have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Stephen.